Hi and welcome to Swedish Plant Guys. In this video we will give you the 6 most common problems you could have with your Dracaena in your home. And we will also try and give you solutions to every problem as well. Now if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do, and hit that bell as well so you get a notification every time we put up something new. Also, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel a lot. And please follow us on Facebook and Instagram to get a small sneak preview on upcoming videos. And also please share with your friends, of course. Starting off, issue number 1. And this is one of the most common problems you can have with your Dracaena. And it concerns the leaf. Now you could get on the tip of the leaf, you could get a small brown leaf tip. And that brown leaf tip is extremely dry. When you touch it, it almost crumbles. This is very, very common, and it has some different causes. The most common cause is that it is a mechanical damage. What I mean by that is that if you have your Dracaena placed somewhere where you quite often go past your Dracaena, and you touch it or just slightly nudge it like this. If you do that a lot of times, what will happen is that the edge and tip of that leaf will start to get brown. And you can just pull that off and see that it just crumbles in your hands. Now that is what we call a mechanical damage. Same thing can happen in the greenhouse if plants are standing too close together. You can also get that problem even in the greenhouse as well. Now, another problem with this, or another cause of this, can also be the humidity or drafts in your house. It has the same effect. If you have a very low humidity, the plant could have a problem sending out water to that tip because a lot of that water starts to evaporate from the leaf. So it can't push that water all the way down to the edge of that leaf. Same thing happens if you have a draft. If it's very drafty and the plant is standing and just moving all the time, that draft is also sucking out all of that water from the leaf. And that edge will be the first thing to get damaged. Now what do? Well, it's quite simple. You have to try and see what your problem is. If it's a mechanical damage, then move your plant somewhere where you don't touch it, where you just leave it alone. If it's a draft, you do the same thing. But if you know that you have very low humidity in the wintertime, as we have here in Sweden, we get quite low humidity in wintertime indoors. So what you can do is try and get that humidity up by adding a humidifier, maybe placing some water around the plant or something, just to try and help it. But this is not something that will cause your plant to die. It is just a visual damage. And you can remove it. We remove it by just taking your fingers on that brown edge, just exactly where the green of the leaf meets that brown, and then you just pull it off. Because then you will get all of the brown but none of the green. You could use a shearer and try and cut it off, but usually you cut into the green as well. And when you do that, you create a wound that could get infected, but it will probably continue to be a little bit brown where you made that cut. But if you just take your fingers and pull it gently off, you will just get the brown tip and nothing else. So that is the easiest way to get rid of it, but it's not dangerous for your plant. Now, issue number 2 is that you get brown spots on the tip of the leaf or on the edges of the leaf. But these brown spots are not crumbly, they're not dry. It almost feels like they are the same texture as the leaf. It can also be a little bit moist, very, very soft. If you get brown on the edge of the leaf like that, or on the tip of the leaf, or on the side or edge of the leaf, then you have another problem. It's usually one out of two things. The most common problem here is that you've given your Dracaena too much water, and the roots are starting to get damaged. What happens is that the tips of the leaf will get that brown-black spot on it that feels a little bit soft. When you see that, you know, okay, I need to stop watering my Dracaena and let it dry out as much as I can before watering it again. It's quite simple to solve that problem. It could also be that the edge of the leaf starts to get brown like that, brown-black. But it could also be that you have an excess of salts down by the roots. Now, how do you get an excess of salts? Well, every time you add fertilizer to your Dracaena, when you mix up fertilizer with your watering, with the water, and you give that to your plant, it's actually in salt form. So if you over-fertilize your Dracaena, it will react to that, and it will react poorly, and you will get those brown spots, usually on the sides of the leaves or on the tips of the leaves. Now, you can look at the soil level of your Dracaena. If you see some white powder on the surface of the soil, that could be the salts that are accumulating inside of that soil. You can also knock off the pot and look at the soil to see if you have any of those white salts in your soil. If you see that, that is an indicator that you need to deal with it. The way you deal with it is that you can either just repot your plant, or you could also take it outside and start to give it water and let it drain out from the bottom of the pot. Just give it a lot of water and let it drain out. Now, eventually, all of those salts will drain out with the water in the bottom of the pot. So if you do that a couple of times during a day, you just rinse it through, let it drain out, you will get that excess salt to go out from the bottom of the pot. And the most important thing is that when you've done that, you need to make sure that the Dracaena dries out completely before you water it again. Otherwise, the roots could get damaged. Issue number 3. And this issue is not concerning any black spots. It's actually the color yellow. And if you start to get yellow tips or yellow edges on the leaf, it could be the entire leaf on the edges here, on the sides of the leaves, starts to become a little bit yellow. If you let it go a long time, it will continue to move further into the leaf, and the edges will become black. So you have black on the outside and yellow on the inside, but it starts with that yellowing on the tip or the edge of the leaf. If you get that, that is a sign of too much fluoride or chlorine in the water when you give that water to your plant. Now, here in Sweden, our tap water doesn't have a lot of chlorine or fluoride in it, so usually we do not get that problem here. But I know that in different parts of the world, to make your tap water as clean as possible, there are different ways of using fluoride and chlorine to make it clean. And if you have a lot of that in your water, it could be a problem. And you will see that with that yellowing of the edges or tips. Now, to treat that, just stop using the water from your tap. And start using bottled water or maybe rainwater or something instead. Or you could use distilled water is also an option. in some countries, you can use the tap water. You just fill up a bucket of tap water. You let it stand outside or stand in a room somewhere for at least 24 hours. What will happen is that that water will aerate, and a lot of that chlorine and fluoride will evaporate from the water. However, I know that in some countries, they use different methods when they clean that water. So it might not always work by aerating that water. So there could still be a lot of fluoride or chlorine in the water. So just check with your local authorities if you get this problem on your Dracaena. If they say that yes, we have a high concentration of chlorine or fluoride in the water, use alternatives when you water your Dracaena. And when you start using something else, this problem will stop and you won't have that problem. You could repot your plant if you think that you have this, because then you are taking away that chlorine or fluoride in the soil, so you get it away from the plant. Issue number 4, and this is concerning two colors. This is both the yellow and the brown-black spots. If you get brown-black spots on the leaf, it can be in the middle of the leaf, it can be down by the stem where the stem meets the leaf, it could also be on the edge of the leaf. If you get a black spot with yellow around it, that could be an indication of a fungus problem. And this is something we call leaf spot disease, and it's a fungal or bacterial problem. If you get this on your Dracaena, there are two things you need to do. First of all, you need to remove the leaves that are infected. Because if it is a bacterial or fungus problem, by removing the affected leaves, you could actually save the plant. So just take it away all the way down into the stem, take away the entire leaf, all of the leaves that are infected. After removing the leaves that are infected, just let the plant dry out as much as you can before watering it again. Because if you let it dry out completely, that fungus or bacteria could actually start to die and start to disappear as a problem for you. But if it continues, if you still get new leaves with this problem, then you have to go out and buy something to treat this fungal or bacterial problem. Now there are ready-to-use mixtures that you can buy for leaf spot disease. Now leaf spot disease is not that common, but it's more common when you have a greenhouse where you get very high temperatures, very high humidity, where you have a lot of plants standing very close together. You have that intense, and you don't have a lot of air moving around. So one way of stopping this is to place your plant somewhere where you know that the air is moving quite a lot. Because by doing that, you could prevent this from becoming even worse. So if you have your plants in a greenhouse or somewhere, or if you live in a country where you have very high humidity, where you know that you're inside of your home, the air is not moving that much, you have a very high heat, high humidity, then make sure to start to aerate your room, and that problem could start to go away. Issue number 5, and this is concerning the entire plant. If you see that all of the leaves of your Dracaena are starting to become a little bit pale, it's losing its color, then you probably have a pest problem. And one of the most commonly known pests attacking your Dracaena are mites. Mites are very, very small. You can't see them with your naked eye. So when you start to see that you have a problem, there are a lot of them. But if you have a good eye, you could see this in an early stage, because the mites always attacks the newest leaves first. So the top of the crown is where they attack first, because this is the most delicious part of the plant for the mites. This is where a lot of the nutrients are being pushed up because the plant wants to grow. So you have a lot of the nutrients here. And that is where they attack first. So the newest leaves are the ones that are going to start to become a little bit faded. However, if you don't see it then you will see it when the entire plant starts to be faded. And if you have a mite problem, there is only one thing to do, or maybe two things to do. You have to react. And you react by either go out and buying a pesticide that is specifically for mites, because not all pesticides that you buy in the shop work on mites. So make sure that they work on mites. And then you follow the instructions and you go through the complete care to get rid of those mites. Another way to take care of mites is actually just to take your plant outside and just blast it with your hose, your water hose. Just make sure that you get that water in from your hose on the entire plant, because it's quite easy to knock off the mites from the leaf. So when that water hits the plant, the mites are actually going to start to fall off. Now if you do that once a day for 2 weeks, and that is a long time, but if you do that once a day for 2 weeks, you will get rid of those mites as well. So go out and buy a pesticide or hit it with your water hose once a day for 2 weeks and you will get rid of those mites. And of course, this will work fine in your bathtub if you have an apartment and you're unable to take it outside. You can use it in your bathroom, in the tub, just rinse it with your hose in there as well. Issue number 6. And this could happen quite often. And this is concerning the stems of our Dracaena. Now there are 2 different types of Dracaenas, or 2 different stem types. This here is a Dracaena Janet Lind, and it has the green stem. You have the corn plant, for instance, the Dracaena Massangiana, and that has the brown hard stem. Usually it's quite thick as well. But no matter what, an issue with the Dracaena is that the stem could start to turn black. And what has happened here is one out of 2 things. The most common thing is that maybe you've moved your plant, or maybe you've tried to repot it or something. And when you did that, you actually moved the stem inside of the pot, and you have broken off all of the roots, or maybe a lot of the roots. And what happens is that you've cut off the highway of water inside of the plant. It cannot suck up water and push water up to the leaves. And what will happen is that the stem will start to turn black. Now, you should think that, well, if you can't push any water in this, shouldn't the leaves start to decay first? But that is not always the case, because you have a lot of water inside of the stem and you have a lot of water in the leaves. So it can take quite some time before all of that water inside of the complete plant starts to die on you. Now the second way, you could have something called root rot. Now root rot it's a fungus problem that attacks the roots. And it comes because you have given your plant too much water. The soil has been wet for too long time and you get root rot. Now root rot, you can see it because the root starts to become black brown. And they can also have a little bit of a distinctive smell. It doesn't smell good. So if you think that it could be root rot, what you need to do is that you need to repot your plant into new soil. Make sure that it dries out completely. And you could be able to salvage that stem. But if that stem has become black, if it's just starting to become black, you have a chance of making it. But if the stem has become black, you will probably not save that stem. And usually when it's concerning Dracaenas, you have a lot of stems in the same pot. So what you do if it's gone past that is that you take away that stem completely. Pull it out of the pot, let the plant dry out completely. You will probably not have a problem with that root rot moving to the other stems. And also if it was the case that you have injured the roots, that you have broken them off, the same thing applies. Pull out that stem, let the plant dry out completely before watering it again, and it won't have any problems with the other stems in that pot. Now you could get a warning signal that this is about to happen. It's not 100% sure, but you could get warning signals. And one of the warning signals, if you get root rot or if you have broken off all of the roots, is that you can see that some of the leaves are just starting to wilter a little bit. And when you feel that leaf, you can see that it's losing its water. And that is because it cannot suck up any more water. So that water that is evaporating is all the water it has inside of the stem and inside of the leaves. So when that is evaporating, it actually starts to just wilter a little bit. If you see that on one stem but not the other stems in your pot, that could be an indication of either root rot or that you have done something to your roots. You've broken them off. Now lastly, I want to give you a small advice as well. Now the Dracaena is very sensitive to either too hot or too cold. If you place your Dracaena somewhere where you have direct sunlight most of the day, it will get burnt. And what happens when sunlight hits your Dracaena is actually that sunlight starts to make the cells inside of each leaf explode. You see that the leaf starts to turn lightly brown, and that brown is very, very dry. And that is actually all of the water inside of the cells have evaporated and the cell has just exploded. That could be from sunburn. On the other side of that spectrum, you have frostbite, or if it has been in a very, very cold weather, or if you have a very, very cold draft. What happens then is that the water inside of each cell starts to become very, very cold, or it could even start to freeze. And the cell starts to crumble and leak. Now you see that on the leaf, that in a irregular pattern, you see darker spots or darker lines, just dark green on all of the leaf. That is an indicator that you have frostbite on the leaves, that the plant has been in too cold weather. Now, the plant is actually so sensitive that if you have freezing weather, 10 seconds out in freezing weather can be enough that you can get that problem on your leaf, because the cells of the leaf in the Dracaena can't handle cold weather. The cells just burst and they leak out water, and you see that with that dark green, almost irregular pattern on the leaf. That is from frostbite. Now, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do as well, and hit that bell so you get a notification every time we put up something new. Now, we also have a Facebook and an Instagram, and on those pages you can see sneak previews on upcoming videos, so please follow us there as well. And share with your friends so that they also can take care of their Dracaenas in the most perfect way. Now, until next time, hej då!